Welcome to Easy Lingo, where you learn English by listening to real conversations. Subscribe and stay with us for more amazing episodes. Let's begin. It was snowing, like the city had decided to soften its edges. Soft, fat flakes, the kind that make the streetlights look like old film. I was standing at a crosswalk in Lower Manhattan, phone almost dead, breath in my scarf, and my whole week felt like a suitcase that had ripped open. An argument, a terse email from work about restructuring, my rent notice. Honestly, I almost turned around and went home. But then a street musician started playing an old song my father used to play on Sunday mornings, and I started to cry, quietly. And then I laughed because there was a stranger next to me singing, horribly off-key, and that made it feel like a scene from a movie.
Wow.
Yeah, and the weirdest thing? That same stranger, same off-key humming, popped up again later that night in a different neighborhood, like some accidental recurring character. It made the whole evening feel uncanny, like the city was nudging me, or maybe I was just finally noticing things I'd stopped seeing.
I see. Lena, can you walk me through that night slower? I want the smell, the shoes, the tiny details.
Okay. So, chestnut smell from a cart, steam puffing up from a grate, my boots squeaking because they were new, and I was annoyed about that. The streetlights made puddles look like miniature lamps, and the musician was playing something simple, an old acoustic tune, nothing fancy, but it landed right on a memory I didn't even know I had left open. I felt ridiculous and then full-on human. I ducked into a coffee shop to escape the wind, and the barista had my hometown accent and was reading the same tiny book I used to dog-ear. I started talking to her like we'd always known each other.
That's the thing, right? Little things stacking until suddenly you're convertible to a different person. Did you tell the barista what was going on?
I told her I was having a rotten week, and she said, calmly, "Walk until you find a red scarf." And I laughed and left because, obviously, of course, that's what she said. But I kept seeing a red scarf that night. On a jogger, on a statue, on the handle of a stall. Each time it registered like a punctuation mark. And by the time I was on this rooftop, just a small fire escape with a crooked view of the river, I had this strange calm, like the city had pressed pause for me to take one honest breath.
I love how cities do that. Pause. I love how cities do that. Pause for no reason except you to notice. So, was that the night you decided to leave your job?
Not in a cinematic, mic drop way. It wasn't like I wrote a resignation on the rooftop. But I will tell you, Sam, I realized then that I felt more alive talking to strangers on the sidewalk than I had felt in my office for months. It was like the truth I'd been ignoring finally had a voice, and I could not politely ignore it any longer.
Yeah, that hits. I know that kind of quiet clarity. For me, my turning point night was less snow and more wrong bus, right country.
Oh, God. Your travel disaster story? I love this one already.
So, picture this. I'm backpacking, very committed to the lost and romantic aesthetic, which mostly means I forgot to charge my phone, and my pronunciation of the town names was creative. I got off at the wrong stop because the driver shrugged like it was normal, and there was no Wi-Fi, and my map looked like abstract art. I flailed at the locals with my best toddler GPS pointing. They laughed, gently, and then a group decided I should come to dinner with them. And of course I said yes, because at that point, who else was I going to eat with?
You said yes to strangers at a table? Are you kidding me?
I mean, yes. And it turned into the most human, ridiculous night. They fed me something wildly spicy. I mispronounced the dish like 3 times, and it sounded like I was cursing. We drank wine from mismatched glasses, and someone said, very simply, "You work so you can live, not live so you can work." I don't know who wants to be quoted in travel brochures, but that line landed. It wasn't thunderbolt epiphany. It was that slow loosening, where suddenly the idea that I could change my day-to-day felt possible.
So you left your job because of spicy food?
Not solely because of the food, but the wrong bus put me somewhere that offered a different rhythm. Being lost stripped away all my productivity armor. I could see the life I had been stacking like a fortress to keep myself from admitting things. When the fortress had a door I didn't know about, I stepped out.
I love that. Productivity armor. I think both our stories have a pattern. An ordinary seam opens, and something leaks out. Emotion, possibility. Which brings up something I've read about. Apophenia, patternicity. The brain loves to connect dots, even when maybe there aren't any objective lines joining them.
Yes, apophenia and patternicity. Basically, our heads are wired to find stories in noise. It's not fake, it's how we navigate the world. And when you're emotionally raw, like tired, anxious, open, you're more likely to notice a coincidence and give it weight.
And psychologists call some of those vivid memories flashbulb memories, those moments that stick with startling detail, like where you were or what you smelled when something huge happened. It feels like your brain took a snapshot and never let it fade.
Right. So here's a question for you, Lena. Are signs real, or are we making them up because our brains are hungry for story?
If the sign nudges you toward a better life, does it matter where the nudge came from? If an ambiguous coincidence pushes me to finally say no to something that was making me small, I don't care if the universe sent it or my brain. The practical outcome, someone stepping away from a draining job, is the same. But I do get nervous about people waiting for signs like a cosmic permission slip when maybe they already had the answer.
That's fair. I think of it like sometimes signs are just permission we were looking for. But I also get spooked if algorithms start playing matchmaker for my life choices.
Good. Transition. We should talk about AI. Imagine a near future where an app in your pocket isn't just suggesting your next podcast, but subtly nudging the routes you take, the coffee shop you pick, the message you send. It sounds convenient, but what does it mean for the myth of the chance encounter?
Okay, picture an AI that reads your calendar, your messages, maybe your step count, and nudges you. Leave 10 minutes earlier, take the river route, text your college friend. That day might become your day that changed everything, not because of fate, but because an algorithm optimized for a beneficial nudge. Is that less romantic?
Lena, wait, Sam, I think romance is overrated as a criteria. If a suggestion from an algorithm leads me to a rooftop where I finally say the thing I needed to say to myself, I don't care about the poetry of it. I care about the human outcome. But there's a big caveat. Agency. Do I feel like I'm choosing? or like something invisible is pushing.
Exactly. If you feel like the pilot of your life, nudges are fine. If the pilot is an algorithm with a penchant for engagement, then we might be in trouble. Also, who writes the reward functions? What gets optimized?
Right. And there's a subtle difference between being guided and being groomed. A planner that says, go to the park because your heart rate suggests you need a break is gentle. One that says, go to the coffee shop because data shows you'll spend 47% more time in the app is manipulative.
It's wild because, on one hand, we already accept lots of algorithmic nudges. Maps divert us away from accidents. Music apps put the playlist that becomes the soundtrack of a night. On the other hand, we have this deep desire to feel like there was a meant-to-be moment, some mystical coincidence. Do we trade mystery for efficiency?
I don't think we ever fully trade it. Humans will always crave stories. Plus, even if an AI points you to a cafe, there's still the unpredictable human element. The person you meet there, the way the light hits the table, the joke that goes horribly wrong and then becomes the thing you laugh about forever. Algorithms can set a stage, but they can't write the improvisation that makes a night real.
So true. There's also déjà vu, another glitch that feels like a cosmic script, but might be neurological. Scientists think it's a timing hiccup in the brain's memory processing. Newness temporarily feels old. It's spooky, but maybe it's just a small wiring blip.
I've had a creepy déjà vu once where I walked into a cafe and knew the exact line of conversation I would have. It was unnerving and then funny because the cafe's barista gave me a weird look mid-sentence. But even if déjà vu is just a timing error, emotionally it reads like a secret message from some parallel self.
Wait, interrupt. What did the barista do?
He laughed at me and then told me the espresso machine was broken and offered me a cookie. It was very human, very anti-mystical, and yet somehow perfect.
See? That's the point. The magical and the mundane are braided together. A wrong bus can lead to dinner that changes your perspective. A broken espresso machine can give you the cookie you needed. Both are ordinary causes with extraordinary consequences.
And statistically, coincidences are more likely than we think. Researchers say that if you pay attention to enough people and enough days, unlikely events will happen often. But that doesn't take away the emotional impact. If thinking of a childhood friend causes you to dial their number and they pick up, it feels like the universe leaned in. It feels like fate, even if it's just probability.
Let's give our listeners some concrete friend-of-a-friend style stories. I heard one about a missed flight. Person was angry, rebooked, sat near someone at the gate, and that person became a business partner. Another classic, lose your phone, meet the person who returns it, and they become crucial later. These are small tragedies that flip into huge openings.
Yeah, those are great. They underline the strange alchemy of bad luck turning into a pivot point. And it ties back to what our big theme is. Often, the day itself isn't extraordinary. It's just a day, filled with the same microscopic possibilities as any other. But something about the inner state, the vulnerability, the openness, creates a receptivity that allows meaning to crystallize.
We should pause and ask listeners directly, not to interrupt you, Lena. What's your one day that changed everything? Take a second. Think about the smell, the light, the stupid detail you'd never tell anyone.
Yeah. If you're listening right now, maybe on a walk or the subway, take a breath. What was your day? Was it a street musician? A wrong stop? An algorithmic suggestion? A flash of clarity? If you feel comfortable, tell a friend or write it down. People often underestimate how telling their one day can be. It helps orient you.
And if you can't think of one immediately, that's okay. Maybe you're in the middle of it now. Maybe one of these small, odd things happening to you, an offhand conversation, a detour, could be the hinge if you let it.
Sam, quick question. Did you actually send your resignation right after that night with the spicy food?
No, I sat on the idea. I drafted an email the next morning and saved it as a draft 6 times like I was preserving it as a talisman. It took weeks of small choices, reducing my hours, taking weekends off, before I actually typed the final line and sent it. But that wrong bus night was the first honest thing I'd allowed myself in months.
That's so real. Nothing cinematic, no fireworks, just a sequence of tiny, brave steps. I love that. It demystifies the whole one big heroic swipe narrative people tell themselves.
We should talk a bit about the neuroscience of why those days stick. Flashbulb memories, emotional charge, novelty, surprise, they act like highlighters in your brain. You're more likely to remember sensory detail, like Lena's chestnuts or my mismatched wine glasses. Our brains don't store every Tuesday equally.
And not just memory. Those days reframe your story. They give you a narrative arc, a problem, a turning point, a new direction. Psychologists and storytelling experts say stories help us make sense of lives that otherwise feel like a to-do list. When you tell it as a story, suddenly your life has plot and purpose.
Right. We remember ourselves as protagonists. Maybe the takeaway is create better scenes, take small risks, go for the rooftop, order the weird thing from the vendor. If you want a day that matters, put yourself somewhere where something can happen.
I like that. Put yourself where something can happen. It's practical and hopeful. But let's be honest, sometimes we can't travel or chase serendipity. You might be an exhausted parent or someone saving for rent. How do you make space without major upheaval?
Tiny experiments. A 5-minute walk instead of scrolling. Saying yes to a phone call you usually decline. Send in one honest message. These are small bets that increase the chance of a meaningful moment. It's less about drastic gestures and more about recalibrating the odds.
Also, asking yourself one quiet question every morning: what small risk can I take today that won't wreck my day, but might make it feel alive? It could be as simple as taking a different route home or complimenting a stranger. Those micro choices change your internal weather.
And if your sign comes from an app, make a meta choice. Set boundaries. Decide what you want suggestions for. Let tools help with logistics, but keep big life choices for yourself. Or at least check in with a friend before you press send on the thing labeled life-changing by your calendar app.
Yes. Consult a human before consenting to a destiny algorithm. Dear algorithm, run it by Lena first. On a serious note, transparency matters. If AI is nudging us towards certain choices, we should know why and be able to opt out.
We didn't plan on turning into a tech ethics podcast halfway through, but here we are. And it's relevant. Who decides which nudges are good? A health company? An advertiser? Your ex's curated playlist? The stage is set for both beautiful assistance and subtle manipulation.
Back to the emotional center. The most memorable days have a vulnerability to them. In my rooftop scene, I was tired and raw. In your wrong bus scene, you were lost and humbled. When we're vulnerable, we're more likely to notice and to choose differently. That gives the day its power.
Yes, vulnerability opens channels. And to be clear, vulnerability doesn't have to mean dramatic pain. It can be honest curiosity, fatigue, or even boredom. Sometimes being unmoored is the best place to find another shore.
Do you ever worry, Sam, that once you name a day the one, you're boxing your life into a tidy story? Like you're saying, this is my origin moment, and then everything else is less important?
Totally. I think it's human to create origin myths for ourselves. That helps us make sense, but it can also flatten the nuance. I try to hold the memory lightly, as a marker, not a weight. It's part of my map, not the whole map.
I like that part of the map. Keep it in your pocket, but don't let it be a compass that stops you from exploring new places.
Let me ask you something, Lena. After that rooftop night, did people notice a change? Or was it internal for a while?
Mostly internal at first. I started saying no to small things, then to larger requests. People close to me noticed the tone change, less agitation, more focus. But the external changes came later. I applied for different projects, I changed my schedule, I eventually left the job. The city didn't rearrange itself for me. I rearranged my life, slowly, and that was the real work.
So, the one day acted like permission or a seed. The work after is what made the tree. That's so important to emphasize. A day alone is rarely enough without follow-through.
Absolutely. This isn't a romantic checklist. See street musician, quit job. It's more like, see street musician, remember who you are. Take incremental steps to match your life to that memory.
Before we wrap, quick practical takeaways for listeners. 5 short, practical moves to invite a day that matters. Go.
1. Create pockets of unstructured time. Walks without headphones, small windows where nothing is scheduled.
2. Say yes to one small social risk this month. Coffee with a stranger, a meetup, a different route.
3. Journal one detail each night. Smell, sound, person, one sentence. Over months, patterns will reveal themselves.
4. Set boundaries with your tech. Decide what nudges you're open to and what requires a human double check.
5. Be patient with yourself. Change is often a long, small steps thing, not a single movie moment.
That's solid. And if listeners are feeling stuck, remember, the day that changed everything might be a series of days nudging you, not a bolt from the blue. You're allowed to follow the trail slowly.
And if you have a story, text a friend, write it in a note, or share it with someone. Stories are how we practice change. They help us see the choices we've already made and the ones we might still take.
Also, if your algorithm suggests the perfect moment, at least buy it a drink. I'm joking. Mostly.
All right, closing scene. Imagine the city again, or a small foreign square, or your kitchen table. The light is odd. The air has a smell you can't name. You don't have to do anything dramatic. Maybe you pick up the phone. Maybe you buy the ticket. Maybe you simply breathe and notice. That moment could be one of those hinge days.
And if it isn't, if nothing big happens, that's okay too. Life is made of 1,000 small, good days stitched together. But keep your eyes open. Put yourself where things can happen. Be brave about small risks. And be kind to yourself during the waiting.
Thanks for listening. I'm Lena.
I'm Sam. This was one day that changed everything. If you like this episode, tell a friend about the street musician, the wrong bus, or the app that almost took you somewhere you didn't mean to go. And if you have your own story, well, you know what to do.
See you next time. And seriously, if you ever find a red scarf, buy it.